So beginning with media independence. As I think anybody who follows the media in Japan knows, whether following domestic media or international media, there's significant concern about the direction of the independent media in Japan. I heard from journalists across a range of companies and across broadcast and print of serious concern about their ability to independently report on issues, particularly issues of sensitivity to the government. And I think one factor that highlights the concern is that many journalists came to me and my team and asked for anonymity in those discussions, which obviously for a journalist, you value your byline, you value your place in the media ecosystem. That is unusual. Now I want to divide up my remarks on media independence between the broadcast media and the print media, although I'll bring them together in a moment. I would say that the fundamental issue with the broadcast media is legal, and the ability and willingness of some in positions of authority to take advantage of some legal uncertainty. And here I focus in particular on the Broadcast Act. So the Broadcast Act, of course, under Article 4, provides a requirement for fairness, let's say, in the media. And the comments from members of the government have suggested that that's a legal obligation on journalists, and that at least theoretically, it's possible that the government could suspend a broadcast license under Article 174 of the Broadcast Act if there is a violation of Article 4. And of course, as was mentioned in the introduction, this statement was made in the Diet by the Minister of Internal Affairs and Communication. I think this is a significant problem that the Broadcast Act allows for regulation by the government of the media. Now, I think there's some disagreement, legitimate disagreement, over the scope and meaning of that relationship between Article 4 and the enforcement in the Broadcast Act. But I think the very fact that there's a suggestion that the Broadcast Act could be used in a way to suspend broadcast licenses is a problem. And what I've heard repeatedly across broadcast media, across broadcast journalists, is a concern that even though that particular provision has not been implemented in the past, that it's a kind of potential sword of Damocles, a potential threat to them in the future, and certainly a threat that government will regulate the broadcast media strongly. My view is that the Broadcast Act should be amended. And it could be amended in a couple of different ways. One would be the repeal of Article 4, because of course judging fairness is an extremely open-ended kind of role, and something that government should not be in the business of doing. But moreover, the broadcast media should be regulated by an independent third party. It could be a third party appointed by the government, but it should be independent, and the broadcast media should not, even theoretically, be subject to regulation by a government ministry. Now, one thing that I would say is that, normally speaking, these kinds of attacks on the media happen in democratic societies. It's normal for there to be tension, and in fact it's healthy for there to be tension between the media and the government. That's how you in the media, I think, should operate and expect to operate independently. The problem is that the system of journalism and the system of media, the structure of media itself in Japan doesn't seem to afford journalists the ability to push back against government encroachments. And you see this, and we learned about this in the example of the Keisha Club system. We learned about serious concern about senior members of the independent media meeting with senior members of the government. We heard these stories repeatedly, and I would really encourage journalists to organize themselves, to adopt a professional organization, a union, in effect, in which journalists can express some media-wide solidarity, can perhaps enjoy a kind of self-regulation through a press council. In short, the media itself has a role to play. The media itself bears some responsibility for the situation, and I hope that these two different tasks together, changing the law and the media organizing itself, could move forward and really protect the independence of the press.